This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar, principal second violin and artistic administrator, Merwin Sue, and we have two very special guests here in the studio with us. That is Damon Coleman, who is a cellist with the Toledo Symphony. Welcome, Damon.
Thank you.
And I've got a little music here. And we are also welcoming star reporter and Toledo native Jaden Jefferson into the studio. Welcome, Jaden.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Very glad to have you. And Damon, I don't want you to feel out, so I can give you a little bit of a fanfare, too. Okay.
You're too kind.
So we've got the two of you here on our panel. Really a special occasion for us because Damon and Jaden, we're bringing you together. Jaden's going to interview you, Damon, a little bit later. I hope you're ready for that.
Sure.
Right? I know that Jaden is prepared, as he always is.
Of course.
Yeah. But Jaden, you and I first met at Toledo Press Club. They were honoring you. They gave you a membership. And, of course, Toledo Symphony Lab was picking up 2 awards for radio programs here in Toledo. So that was a nice connection, and that explains why you came here and joined us for today. So this will be fun. I want to talk with you a little bit first about your career because, you know, you had a lot of stuff happen very quickly, and your fame has risen concurrently with all of that. But it kind of goes back to, as far as the viral sensation, that first video was that interview that you did with Senator Elizabeth Warren. And I wonder if you can sort of set the scene and recount how that happened.
Well, I don't think it was anything that I did that made that happen. I believe it was her press secretary. She's the person who, organizes all the media stuff. And with all that media there, I know it was probably, a normal occurrence for there to be a lot of media around Elizabeth Warren. But she saw I had my camera, so I think she was probably curious, why is there an 11-year-old with a camera at a presidential candidate rally?
Yeah, so she thought you were a Republican spy, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But so she asked me if you would like to sit down with the senator, and I, of course, said yeah, because I already had intentions of doing that one way or another. Yeah. And she made it happen, so she said, let the senator finish her selfie line, which, there's probably like 1 million people there who want to get selfies with the senator. So she's done getting all the selfies. Not done. There's still a long line. She's a celebrity. And they had to cut the line in half. They had to make the other people wait. So then they did the interview. And once we got started with the interview, I had to set up because they were probably rushing me. They were just like, you need to make sure that you are set up by the time she walks into the room. And of course, I'm setting up. Campaign staffers are talking to me, asking me questions. And then she walks in. She has this entourage, like of 2 people just walking in behind her, and she's chatting, and she walks in, and, we start to have a little conversation. And I asked her if she was ready for the interview. She said, of course. So turned the camera on, and that's really where the actual interview began. And I was asking her about her, I believe it was her equal opportunities for people of color. I asked her that. And she
Don't spoil it because that's part of my quiz later.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to say anything about how she answered.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Okay.
But, I asked her about that. I can't remember the other question. I'm sure I messed it up in all my other interviews when they asked me what the second question was.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think it was, I don't know, I think it was maybe something about trade, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. But a couple of things stand out in what you said to me. Number one, you were already a pretty well-honed reporter at this point because you're talking about pushing yourself to the front of the line. And, that you already had those chops, right? Otherwise, they certainly wouldn't have taken you seriously in that situation. And the other thing, talking about selfies with Elizabeth Warren, people lined up for selfies. I imagine you're getting a little taste of that yourself occasionally, people coming up and saying, hey, can I get a picture?
Yeah, I mean, even when I'm eating breakfast or I am just out and about, people...
Not at your house, though.
No. No. But when I'm out and about, people try to get a selfie with me. When I'm eating breakfast, I'll get a selfie with me, like when we're out and about. So usually I'll get a couple people every now and then.
Yeah. How do you feel about that whole fame thing? Because it happened fairly quickly for you.
Yeah, one night.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never expected it to happen that way, but it happened, and ever since then, there have always been people who are wanted to get a selfie, and it's been crazy.
Yeah. Well, and it brought you a lot of attention, which I assume has afforded you a lot of opportunities. I know that you've said that, one of the things that fame gave you was the fact that you're a national reporter now. You have a national profile, so you can go after some of those national stories. Yeah. Now, we mentioned that obviously you knew what you were doing when you got your claws into Elizabeth Warren, and you had some experience, with reporting. You've always wanted to be a reporter. So I wonder if you can tell me a little bit of Jaden's story, right? We'll set the Wayback Machine, we'll go back a little further, and let me pull up a little music for you. There we go, some nice little Jaden story music. So go ahead and tell us about your early years and how it came about that you're doing what you're doing.
Well, I usually would attend my brother's basketball games, and he didn't like me being there with the camera, but I came there anyway because, well, I wanted to. And I went there to his basketball games. I would record his games, and I do that. I'd never really post them, but I just record them because I felt like it. So I just do that, and I know I would cover other stories like, let's see, what are some of the others? Well, I've covered like basketball tournaments at our school. If there are events that were happening that I would coincidentally be at, so I just take my camera with me and just start recording them. Out of convenience, really.
That's great. But now you do this all yourself, right? You do.
Yes.
You operate the camera. You write whatever scripting you need. You do the editing afterwards. How did you learn all of that? I mean, did they teach you in school, or did you just learn on the job, as it were?
I don't think I would learn that in school usually, because we're always doing, what's assigned, and we do have times where we can usually take time to do what we want to do. But that's only a few times out of the year where we can actually do that. But I actually learned it just by watching YouTube videos, and I was doing that, and then there were other cases where I kind of just figured it out, like I just play around with it, like I'd be confused, but so it was usually a small portion of YouTube videos. Other side was maybe just me playing with it and seeing how it worked.
A little bit of trial and error, as it were. Yeah. That's great. Everybody else is sitting here so quietly. I'm wondering. Yeah,
I'm so impressed by your story, and I'm thinking about this as the amount of self-teaching you had to do to understand the proper techniques. I love that you learned this on YouTube. But there had to be some point along the way where you were interested enough to say, I'm going to figure out how to write my script, and that I have to do this before I do this, before I do this, in order to put together an interview. Why was the whole of broadcasting and interviewing so appealing to you, especially at your age, to take this on?
Well, I've always been a person who's watched the news, so it's like, okay, I wanted to do that. I just saw other people doing the news, and I'd maybe be out and about, and I'd see someone doing the news. So I just thought, okay, I should do the news. So I actually took it seriously, not as just something I'm going to do, but I actually put the effort into doing it, and I had the passion to do it. So that's really what led me to do it.
Yeah. And Jaden, you said passion, which is such an important word to think about here. Because in order to do a good interview, you have to be fairly well informed on the topic, too. Yeah,
and that means, watching the impeachment hearings, and then watching the debates, or even watching the local news, just staying up to date as to what's going on in the community, whether that is downloading the news on your phone and doing all those things just to stay on top of the ball on what's going on.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you seem to have mastered at this tender young age is the ability to remain neutral, right? You don't have your favorites. You don't ask leading questions. How much of that is consciously done on your part, and how difficult is it for you to stay in that position?
Well, there are times where I say I want to be impartial, and that's what I do all the time. But if there's like a story where a politician maybe isn't being 100% truthful, then a second Jaden comes out, and you know where I'm going with this, right? Yeah. So then that's when I really want to dig in and really ask those questions. And if I know for a fact that it isn't honesty, but the politician is telling me, then that's when I have to correct the person, because
call them out, huh?
Call them out, yes.
Wow.
So I have to do that a couple times, and that's just part of the job because reporters all the time are getting yelled at. Hey, why are you being so rude to the candidate? I'm like, that's kind of part of the job. I mean, you'll see a lot of reporters daily who have to ask those tough questions, like I do daily.
Can I just say that I'm so glad he's interviewing Damon and not me after all of that. Damon's sitting there very quietly.
He's preparing himself for the tough questions, the follow-ups. Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
preparing himself for the tough questions. You want to go ahead with your interview with Damon, and
sure,
and we'll go with that. No, I don't think that music will fit. Actually, we'll do this without music. That seems to be the right thing to do.
So my first question should be the easiest question, but how did you get into music?
I got into music because, well, my mother was a music teacher. And so I think if you grow up seeing little children come by to have their lessons, you just assume that music is something that children should be doing. So I didn't really have a frame of reference to know that wasn't the case. I started piano when I was about 3. I switched over to cello when I was about 7. And it was something I enjoyed doing. It was something that felt natural, and it gave me a voice that I wouldn't otherwise have had, and so I just kept going with it.
So, my second question was, how old were you when you found your love for music? But I guess I don't have to ask that. But what goes into being a cellist?
Well, I would say that what goes into being a musician, first and foremost, before we get down to being a cellist, would be sincerity. I think that if you're presenting something disingenuously to an audience, they sense it immediately. I think if you're not being true to yourself, the music is going to suffer. I think that being able to connect with an audience means having an openness and an honesty, both with yourself and with the music, so that what you're presenting comes across clearly. I would say, as a cellist, there's some situational things. There's a role that a cello plays in a quartet that's different from what, say, a first violinist would do. There's a specific role that a cello would play in a opera orchestra, even in a jazz ensemble. So that just comes with experience, knowing what the role of your voice is and figuring out how to use it to make the whole better.
So, for those listeners who may not know, you started studying the cello using the Suzuki method. So, can you kind of explain what that method is?
Sure. The basic idea of the Suzuki method is that music is taught as a language. And so, when I was going through way back in the dark ages, that meant listening to cassette tapes. And so
You've heard of cassette tapes, Jaden? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, those are the little things, the little boxes. The little boxes that you put into the music player. So not like a VCR, but smaller, and you put them in there and it plays music.
Yeah. See, this guy knows his stuff.
Very good.
Didn't mean to
Excellent.
interrupt. So you were doing cassette tapes.
Yes. So it involved listening to cassette tapes of, back then it was Ron Leonard. He was the principal cellist of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, playing through short pieces, and then you would listen and try to emulate what you heard. There was emphasis on memorization. There was an emphasis on singing. And so in the same way that you might learn a language by listening to those around you, this process of listening was placed first and foremost as you would go through the Suzuki books.
So do you play any other instruments?
Not in public, but I can get around a little bit on a piano still. Sometimes just for fun to amuse my colleagues, I'll play a little violin, but it's nothing the audience will ever hear.
As far as you know.
Yeah.
So what would be a few of your favorite musicians? Like some of the people that you either grew up liking or people that you just like their music?
Well, actually, the very first music that I bought on my own for myself was not a classical recording. It was Raising Hell by Run DMC.
Ah.
So,
have you heard of Run DMC?
Yeah, they're a rap duo.
Okay,
Trio.
good. Excellent.
Hard-hitting
Good. There's
journalism.
two of them. Yeah.
I mean, are they all still alive now, or maybe they are a duo?
One of them has passed away.
Okay,
Currently,
so they're a duo
They don't
now.
perform anymore, but yeah. So growing up, I grew up in Detroit. There was a lot of Motown in my home. My friends listened to a lot of jazz, a lot of blues, a lot of hip hop. My father grew up in Detroit during that Motown era, so he grew up knowing people like Aretha Franklin and Marvin Gaye and Smokey Robinson. I think I wouldn't say that there's one specific genre of music or a specific musician that's influenced me more than any others. I like Rostropovich, Yo-Yo Ma. I like listening to Thelonious Monk. I would say that the music of Billie Holiday, I like what she does with her voice. I enjoy some music today. I would say the one I would listen to the most would be Kendrick Lamar. The thing that I've noticed that makes me happy about today's music that I can hear on the radio is that the edges are being blurred in terms of genre. So a song like Old Town Road, for example, Lil Nas X, I think that was a big hit, not so much because of the song itself, but because it was blurring the lines between hip hop and country. And so when I listen to that, I think of back when I was listening to Run DMC and Aerosmith, for example, and how that was blurring hip hop and their rock genre. So, yeah, it's a variety. It pretty much just depends on what my mood is, really.
Yeah, that's still, I believe people at school are still debating that. I don't know what to say about that. It's like the lyrics are country, but the beat is hip hop.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing, so it's confusing. Music these days.
But interesting, yeah.
So you have a private teaching studio here in Toledo. So how long have you had that studio, and what kind of instruments do you teach?
I teach cello. I started teaching here, I would say, around 2001. And, well, actually, a little bit of my teaching involves piano, just so my students can get a sense of chords more in a visual way. It's easier to see a chord progression on a piano than a cello. But yeah, I teach cello, and mostly I'm teaching classical. I've had students bring in video game songs that they wanted to learn. I've had students bring in movie music, TV music. There's something you can learn from anything. So, you know, as long as we're continuing along the path of their betterment, we do it.
I really like that concept that people are taking things like video games like that and really putting it into music.
Yeah.
Giving it more purpose than it already does.
Yeah.
Because it may have purpose to them, but when you put it to music, I think that would add a lot more purpose to it.
Definitely. Also, I would say that video game music has evolved tremendously since I was playing Super Mario back in the day.
Since the 16-bit MIDI soundtrack. Yeah.
Indeed.
That was Merwin, by the way.
No, it wasn't. It was the exact same soundtrack.
Yeah, okay.
Well, thanks for putting up with my questions.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
That was great. You know, I've interviewed Damon many, many times in the past, and I have to say, Jaden, you brought out more information from him than I have in probably 5 or 6 interviews. So, kudos to you.
Thank you
for that. I just want to point out a couple of things, Jaden, about talking with Damon about music. And it's interesting how there's a little bit of a relationship between what he was saying about music and making music and like a lot of the people that you do interview. I know you work with a lot of politicians, and this whole idea of sincerity and direct communication. I mean, that's something that you've talked about in politics that you'd like to see more of. And also the whole idea of cassette tapes, going back and listening to that stuff. And I wonder, Jaden, do you listen to other reporters? Do you have any role models yourself that you look to?
Yeah, I mean, I believe I've met pretty much every single reporter in the Toledo market at this point.
Yeah.
I know there's a few reporters that I haven't met yet, but I mean, any reporter that I'm when I'm out on the story, and it's like now it's just a normal occurrence. Like I'll be walking down the street, my sidewalk, and then a reporter, "Hi, Jaden," and so I have a lot of mentors locally because I don't think I mean, for what I've learned from journalism, I've only learned a small bit of all the things there are to learn about journalism, so on a national level and on the local level. So I mean, there's always room for learning new things. So
yeah. Now you go to Maumee Valley Country Day School,
Yes.
A school with fantastic reputation, and they do a lot of things, afford a lot of opportunities for the students there. Did the atmosphere change at all around you at the school after you were on the Ellen Show and you started interviewing all these big names?
I mean, the atmosphere has changed small bit. I mean, there's a lot of people that are excited about what I'm doing. I mean, there's a lot of people that are supportive. And then there's also people that aren't supportive. Yeah. And I've said this when I did an interview on Channel 11 with Christy Lay. I adopted a new slogan. It's mine truly, copyright 2019. But I said I don't listen to my haters because it's good for my health, and it really is. I prefer not to get stressed out, and I prefer not to get a headache over things like that. Yeah. Thank you. So that's kind of my thing now. So I ignore them because it's good for my health. There's no other way to explain it. It's kind of like a medication now. Ignore them. It's good for your health.
Good for you.
I'm going to start selling that.
A lot of kids in your situation, their heads would get pretty big after going through this experience. How do you keep yourself grounded?
I keep myself grounded because I realize that I still have a lot to learn. I'm still the same person I was before. It's just that my passion is being recognized. Yeah. And a lot of us want to be recognized for our passion. Like anybody else wants to be recognized. And there's a lot of other people like me that are doing what I do. It's just they haven't been recognized. So I'm nothing new at all. So, and also it's just important because that's how you build relationships. Because if you're bloating every time you talk to somebody, then they're not going to want to talk to you. Yeah. They're going to want to ignore you. They don't even want to work with you. So that's kind of the basis. And you just do it because you do it. You just don't do that. So that's kind of my way of staying grounded.
Well, again, that authentic thing, being authentic and being true to yourself, so important. Not just in journalism, but also in the arts and everything. Yes. Merwin, you're a violinist. You obviously have to think about this sort of thing every time when you pick up the violin.
Absolutely. It was something that was so amazing listening to Damon. Damon and I play in trios and quartets all the time, and just talking about that sense of being honest with yourself and being able to be vulnerable. I think that's something that's, it's so impressive watching you work as well.
Thank you.
And one thing that I kind of listened to and was when Damon was talking about telling a story. And I think one thing that's so amazing about how you work is you let other people tell their stories. And you do such a good job telling your own story, but you don't insist on putting your own story in there. You actually do a wonderful job of, telling we all got to hear things Damon said that I hadn't heard before. So it was great.
Yeah. You brought it out. I'm going to bring you along every time I have one of these interviews. Right? Okay. You can keep me honest. Yeah. Well, for folks who don't know, of course, you've done a lot of stuff. You've been on the Ellen Show. That was sort of like, everything blew up for you after that in the wake of your interview with Elizabeth Warren. But, I mean, I've got a list here. You've got 21,000 Twitter followers, which is amazing in itself. CNN, Fox, MTV, Univision, and Toledo Symphony Lab. I mean, the list goes on and on. It seems like you're so busy. I mean, how do you find time to be an 11-year-old?
I'm really not that busy. Yeah. All that was probably after the Elizabeth Warren interview. Now there are current projects I'm working on. One which I can tease. I just can't say anything specific. I have really big news.
Hang on.
So I have really big news. So coming up next week, I will be doing a special project, and you will find out soon. So I will keep you updated. That's all I can say, really. I can't say anything else.
Wait a minute. That's all you can say? You have a special project coming up next week?
I'm going to say it like this, actually. A really big, special, gigantic, probably career highlight project coming up.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, that's a pretty good tease.
A pretty good tease.
Yeah, so can we find out about it on your YouTube channel?
You're gonna probably find out. I'm probably gonna release like a statement, I guess, my first official statement, when I'm actually allowed to say what that big project is.
So,
Wow.
Jaden, how are you going to school and covering news? I mean, how does that come together?
It comes together because usually you have to do your schoolwork first, and we don't get a lot of homework. It's kind of like a policy they have. It's a unique policy, really. I've never heard of that. But we have this policy where you don't have a lot of homework. The only homework you'll get is if you need more practice on something and if you, weren't paying attention. So when you get homework, it's you have to stay on the ball with your things. So, like, if you're paying attention in class and getting all of it done, then you're not going to have homework. So if you don't have homework, really all you have to do is just follow through with your plan to read every day and, keep practicing even if something isn't assigned. So I would say that's kind of how I stay on top of everything. And usually when I cover news, I do it very quickly. Like, for instance, I was at another event and I was done doing that story in like 10 minutes.
Wow.
My mom's like, "You're done already?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Hey,
Sounds
Mom,
like
I'm a
he's-
pro, right?
Yeah, I'm a pro with this. Well, not yet. But I could say, like, when it comes to covering those types of stories, I can do this, interview, B-roll, I'm out. So it's really quick.
But
You
there's
make
still,
it sound so easy.
there's
right?
still preparation that goes into this. I
yeah.
I have to imagine that it's not just 10 minutes. It's probably more like an hour for a single story, and that's just that day.
Yeah, usually before I even do anything, I saw this, was a friend of mine who works with TEDx, and he said that success on Monday starts on Sunday. And I said,
very good one.
And I was accurate because yesterday, and since I didn't have school today, I did some work for my stories today. I was already writing up what I wanted to do, and today was just the day I went out to shoot it. That was it.
That's
so
great.
That is cool.
So that really applied to me. I was like, so true. It's really is. So I would say you have to maybe do the thing in one day, or you do it the day before and then actually shoot it the next day.
That's good.
Okay, guys,
Sounds
I have
like sounds like he has time to learn an instrument.
Yeah, right.
That's right, right?
You got your cello teacher sitting right here.
Yes.
Also a little piano and violin in a room somewhere.
And cassette
Probably
tape.
just cello.
Location not to be disclosed, right? They put you in that.
The WGT studios.
Exactly. Hey, we're ready anytime. I have a quiz, as we usually do on this program. We have a quiz that is centered around the theme, and our theme, of course, today is Jaden. So this is a quiz I'm calling the Jaden Reports quiz, all right? And as Jaden said, this is the moment of truth. He gets to find out who is, paying attention to what he's been doing. The good news is that it's multiple choice, so you have a 33%
That never helps
chance.
me.
Yeah,
I like
of
how you're
getting it.
smiling when you say that to
You're
me.
bound to get it right, at least on the third try.
As long as I
right?
keep saying A.
There you go. Bringing a little quiz music here. Have you heard this before, Jaden? This,
Yes, I have.
yeah, that's one of those pieces of. But we've got a little kind of disco version here. Okay.
Nice.
Question number
Yes.
1. Jaden's first viral sensation was his interview with Elizabeth Warren. Now, when he asked her what she is doing for equal opportunities for people of color, what issue did she talk about? Was it jobs? Was it housing? Or was it immigration? Don't answer, Jaden.
I will.
Let somebody else answer. Jobs, housing, or immigration? Clock is ticking.
I'll say jobs.
Oh, all right. 50-50 chance, guys.
I'll say housing.
Talk about housing. How am I doing, Jaden? Was that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Good to know. Which of these politicians has Jaden not interviewed yet? Is it Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, Toledo Mayor Wade Kapsakavich, or President Donald Trump? Which of those has he not interviewed?
President Trump.
Oh, sorry.
I was like, that happened.
It's a
I just have to follow Trump with the buzzer every time. Yeah.
it's a very small soundboard. I
Hasn't
can
happened.
understand.
Although I've heard you say that would be an interview you would like to
A
land.
very interesting one. I'm just
Yeah.
going to leave it at that.
Good. So, now, when Jaden was on Ellen, what did he say he would ask the president about? His number one thing that he would ask Trump about if he got that interview. Was it A, Twitter? Was it B, immigration? Or was it C, climate change?
Immigration?
Nope.
Twitter.
All right, Damon.
Redemption.
Yeah, you'd ask him about his Twitter feed. Enough said right there.
Yes.
Now, besides being a reporter, Jaden also aspires to be what? I forgot to mention there might be some trick questions in here. Of course, now
good.
I've probably given it away, but okay. Besides being a reporter, Jaden also would be comfortable in these professions. Is it meteorologist, a preacher, or perhaps a big city mayor? Something like New York or Chicago.
How about all three?
All three. All three? Is that right?
I would say so.
Yeah, and I also had motivational speaker on this list.
Yes.
Yeah, see, I did my research. Hours and hours of
There's a fair
research.
amount of overlap in those four professions, though, Brad.
Yeah, there is. All of them involves communication,
Yes.
right? So that's what you're good at. All right. As we know, Jaden interviewed Brad Pitt, and when Jaden asked Brad what he wanted to be when he was 11 years old, Brad's answer was it A, a builder? Was it B, a fireman? Or was it C, a veterinarian?
I think an architect of some sort. I remember this.
Yeah, he wanted to build houses.
Yeah, he wanted to-
Yeah. I could have said architect, but that didn't sound like 11-year-old speak, although you would probably say architect,
Yeah.
Jaden, yeah. So how am I doing so far? Am I getting it?
You're doing great. You're doing
Okay.
great.
I think I'm going to win this quiz. All right?
Okay.
Okay, 3 more questions here. On CBS this morning, Jaden said the reason media has an important role in our country is A, it makes your life easier, B, it helps you stay informed, or C, it keeps you safe.
This is one of your all of the above ones, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
Yes.
all of the above. Okay. What person did Oprah Winfrey tell Jaden that she would like to interview but had not yet done so? Is it Lady Gaga? Is it the Queen of England? Or was it Donald Trump?
The Queen of England.
Yeah, I'd say the Queen.
Are you giving him the answers, Jaden? No.
I am not.
Okay. The Queen of
Journalistic integrity. Come on.
England. I would love to see that interview. I would love to see you, Jaden, talk to the Queen of England.
That would be a special interview. We'll make
Yeah.
that happen.
Excellent.
I think you're about the same height now.
Something like that. Okay. Here's your last question. According to MTV News, what piece of advice does Jaden give to the 2020 candidates? Is it focus on the economy? Is it don't say bad things about your opponents? Or is it pay more attention to kids? Which of those 3 do you think is a Jaden quote?
I didn't see this one.
Anybody else? Take a stab at it. Oh, your dad's raising his hand. He knows.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to say pay more attention to kids.
Yeah. Pay
You'd
more
be
attention.
surprised.
Yeah.
You would
Yeah.
be surprised.
Now, Jaden, why do you think that politicians should pay more attention to non-voters?
I would say, non-voters, they have creative ideas. There are ones that have silly ideas, like we should all agree and we should all be nice to each other. That's kind of not going to happen. It
Yeah.
really is not. Even today, after watching the impeachment hearings, we all know that's not going to work.
Right.
So we need to try something different. Whether it be on climate change, whether it be on the economy. I think there are some people that have those. They have voices. They're taking the initiative to inform themselves, and they're using their voices. So I think it's important that we pay attention to them. And if they are making those legitimate points that we could see really happening, and they might even make points we can't see happening, but anything is possible. So I'm gonna leave it at that, and I'm just gonna say there's gonna be some creative ideas out there.
Yeah, excellent. And, somebody like yourself, you may not be able to vote, but you are swaying people's opinions, right? And
Yeah, that's something I try not to do when working in journalism. But for the sake of this show, I will definitely try to sway people to pay more attention to our younger future voters.
Yeah, well said. And of course, just by talking, even if you were a neutral, questioner, as it were, sometimes they hang themselves when they're talking to you. It just depends on what they have to say as well. Damon, you want to turn the tables? Do you have anything that you want to ask Jaden while we're here with him? Aside from when is his next cello lesson?
Well, the first thing I would say is congratulations to
Thank you.
Because generally when I hear people my age and older speaking of your generation, I hear phrases like not focused, not aware of what's going on, not passionate, and you're clearly disproving all of these things. So bravo to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say Well, in the interview, one of the interviews that I saw, I was trying to think to myself, who am I thinking of watching him? And did you ever watch, or have you ever watched Bernard Shaw?
I have not.
Because it seemed to me that the way that you listen reminds me of the way that he would present himself in his interviews. And
he was on CNN, right?
True.
Yeah, with CNN.
So, that was my question, if you'd ever watched him. And if you hadn't, I would recommend that you do if you have some time at some point.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that, if I remember correctly, Bernard Shaw moderated a presidential debate or two.
He did.
And I would love to see you, Jaden, moderate a presidential debate. Wouldn't that be something?
I have to get the candidates on their toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tap dancing.
Yeah, get them tap dancing. They can't tap dance around my questions, but they can tap dance on anything else.
Well, you don't miss a trick, do you?
Yeah, I do not. I mean, if I'm interviewing someone and they straight up dodge the question, not answering the way I want, I'm going to repeat a question until they answer it. So it's going to be that kind of debate kind of thing. So CNN and MSNBC, if you're listening, call me. But that's kind of my thing. So, I mean, if there's positions available, I'm definitely open for it, So just let me know, call me, get in touch with my people, and we'll get in touch with your people, and we're going to make this thing happen. So,
yeah, fantastic. Okay, we're getting close to wrapping it up. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about?
What kind of music do you enjoy?
I'm not really like a big music listener, but I like any song that is catchy. Any song, it's like usually it's weird because if there's a song that's popular, I usually like it, but I'm not really a big music person.
Yeah, it's interesting though. You may appreciate music because of the things that you've talked about in talking with other people and interviewing people, those qualities that you value of integrity.
Yes.
You can find that in certain performers. And a lot of people, the thing in classical music is that we're talking 600, 700 years of music that's out there, different cultures from all around the world. And a lot of this music has been played and performed by hundreds of performers, right? So everybody has a different opinion
Everyone has their own
what
take
they
on
like.
it. Yeah,
what they like and they don't like. And I think it's very much like the political arena or the news arena that you immerse yourself in.
Yeah, it's quite the world. Let's just say that.
Yeah, we can draw I think some commonality between our two worlds.
Yes.
I'd love to ask you one question. What makes you hopeful?
It's really hard to answer that question in these times. But I would say the only thing that makes me hopeful is because, America, it may look like we are in a mess, kinda. We kinda are. Let's be honest with ourselves. But, we still have our values. That's the one thing we still have, because think about it. If someone were to say something offensive, they wouldn't just get away with saying that and it's done. There are going to be people that are going to call them out for saying it. So, that's kind of my thing. If there's still a lot of people out there who stand up for what they believe in, then I believe we're going to be okay. Maybe. Let's keep it that way, okay? Yeah. We need to have our hope out there that there are going to be people that are going to be standing up for what's right. They're actually going to do something, and we're all going to be happy. That's my hope. So Let's see where we go with that.
That's great.
Absolutely. Hearing a young person such as yourself talk that way gives me hope, right? For
Absolutely.
What's to come.
Because even when I'm watching the news and I see all these good stories, it just makes you feel good. It makes you think that there are people that are not focused on the issues. There are people day in and day out, even not being recognized on the news, that are doing these incredible things that just give you hope that, the next, these coming years are going to be great for the country. So.
Yeah. Well, if folks want to, watch your YouTube channel or hook up with you on Twitter, can you give us your social media information?
Yeah, it's very easy because I try to keep them all the same. So on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, it's Jaden Reports. YouTube is just Jaden Reports now.
Oh, great. Good to know.
Is there somebody else named Jaden Reporting on YouTube?
On YouTube, no, I don't think so. If we do, we will make sure to file a copyright form.
There you go.
Hopefully, I know the people that can make that happen. So,
I'm
I
sure
think
we
we're
can.
at the point where we can maybe do it. Add a little uniqueness, and then we'll copyright it.
You have to make it Jaden Reports right now.
Exactly.
This
Exactly. I know
very
there's a lot of
instant.
Jadens.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Jadens that report, and there's probably a few Jadens that report now. So we'll
You'll be
see.
the one that does it right now.
Exactly, right now.
But Jaden Reports Now. That's the YouTube channel.
Yes.
Right? And the rest of it is just Jaden Reports. Good to know. Well, I want to thank both of our guests. It's been such a wonderful conversation and experience today. Something a little different, I think, for our listeners, Jaden, although they undoubtedly will have heard of you through, all the exposure that you've had, sort of a Toledo's favorite son, as it were. I want to thank you, and I also want to thank Damon Coleman for coming in today and subjecting himself to Jaden's questioning, although it was a great
enjoyed
interview.
It.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can get this on the Ellen Show, right?
Yes. Thanks to listeners like you.
This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony, with generous support from the Rita Barber Kern Foundation. You can download episodes of our program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website at toledosymphony.com and their various social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My thanks to Zach Vassar, Merwin Sue, and again to our special guests, Damon and Jaden, who have joined us today. This has been Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.